Hello and welcome to another edition of Know Your Schools on WISD TV. My name is Dale Caffey. My very special guest today is Alfredo Loredo. Alfredo is the Director of Technology, and this is a position you've had for 2 years now?
We're going on my second year now.
Very good. So before we talk about this new position, you're no stranger to Waco ISD. You have held a number of roles. A 20-year veteran.
That's right. You and I basically started around the same year, 1994.
That's right. Talk a little bit about the past 20 years here at Waco ISD.
Well, it's been a great 20 years. Waco's been really good to me. It's been great to my family. When I started 20 years ago as a technology specialist, working for then a very small technology department, showing teachers how to use a bulky computer to project onto an overhead projector. It wasn't one-to-one, it was one computer to 30 students, kind of a setup there. And it was a great time. About a couple of years there, started my master's at Baylor University as a principalship, and then began as an assistant principal at University Middle. Went on to become principal at that campus for 4 years, and then had the privilege and honor of opening up Cesar Chavez Middle School in the early 2000s, and that was a great opportunity there. And then was asked to become principal of Waco High School, and that was a wonderful opportunity. I had to be among the Lions, and a great pride there, but I enjoyed those 2 years.
And let's talk a little bit about prior to coming to Waco. You were out in West Texas.
I was, after graduating from St. Mary's University in San Antonio. Odessa at that time offered the highest first-year teaching salary in the state of Texas. It was $21,000 back then, and I had never been to West Texas. I had heard of Midland, that was about it. So I decided, hey, young, single, let's see what's out there. So I went out there and taught for 3 years, and that's when I started utilizing technology in my classroom. It was using an Apple IIe computer with 2 floppy disks, floppy drives. I would put it on a cart with a long extension cord and roll it to all the students so that they could see what was on my screen. That was without having a nice projection device like most campuses have now.
And then what brought you to Waco? The opening in the technology department?
That's right. A couple of people that were in Odessa and Ector County had come to Waco, and so when it was time to look for positions, look for candidates for this specialist position, working one-on-one with the teachers and doing also professional development, I was asked, and I thought, well, that seems up my alley. I'd love to be able to use a little bit, maybe something more modern than floppy disks and so forth, but how technology has changed just over the last 20 years.
And you are right. We're both past our 20th anniversary at Waco ISD, and you're one of the first friendships I made back then.
I remember your first day, Dale.
Very good. And lo and behold, 20 years later, you're now the Director of Technology. Let's talk first, though, how your past positions, specifically as principal of a middle school and a high school, will help you and help other principals and assistant principals in your new role as the Director of Technology.
Sure. Well, one thing that's important about having that experience as principal and assistant principal, and even as teachers, as a teacher, is to recognize that perhaps the most hardest working people we have in our district are teachers. The ones that get there early in the morning and have minute-to-minute interaction with students, the ones that are really molding the minds of students and engaging them and nurturing them so that they can be successful. Maybe not that first year, maybe not that second, but kind of instilling those skills that they need to be successful eventually when they graduate from high school. As a high school principal, I was able to see the fruits of the labors of elementary, middle, and then high school, to see them finally get out there and walk that stage and have that piece of paper in their hand that said, yes, I have made it, I'm now ready for the next step in life. And the entire district helped prepare them for that. So coming into this position, having that educational background, I recognize first and foremost what the teachers are facing, what the challenges are, what the rewards are. And it's my job in my department to know how I can service that teacher, how I can help with that technology integration, that technology support, and sometimes just that technology knowledge, the knowledge of technology and what's out there.
And we're talking about a generation of kids now who are brought up, I guess I could call them the thumbs generation, because everywhere you look, here they have a device that they're that they're playing with or either learning from or using to learn. Technology is such a big part of education now, and it's your job to do some integration there or help with that integration in the classroom.
Sure, and the first thing is to establish the foundation, have the infrastructure, if you will, to make sure that those devices, whether it's the thumb, whether it's the keyboard, whether it's a touch screen in a large scale, that's all going to work, that we have the bandwidth. 20 years ago, we didn't talk about bandwidth. We talked about how many files you could get on your big floppy disk, okay? But now we're talking about how many files we can get out into the world and the size. Video files, having a video conversation, having portfolios that include references to multimedia references. They don't even use the word multimedia anymore, but you and I know what we're talking about. So it's a matter of making sure that infrastructure is good, not just for next year, but looking ahead at what emerging technologies are and making sure that we have the capacity so that in 3 or 4 years from now, something new comes along, we're going to be okay. We won't have to shift gears all of a sudden. We've built for that. So that's the first. The second is to make sure that the end user, whether it's a mobile, it's a tablet or it's a desktop or a laptop, that all gets serviced, that folks aren't sitting around waiting for weeks after weeks because the keyboard is stuck or the mouse interface doesn't work, what have you. So in my department, we have service technicians that go out there. And then the third is to helping with that integration. I have the coordinator of instructional technology now on my staff. And so let's look at how we can help the teacher know what formats there are to present a lesson using technology, not using technology to present the lesson. There's a big difference. The teacher is still the person in charge, but how they can integrate that technology so that the students are much more engaged and can get interest in whatever the subject, whether it's history, math, science, PE, what have you, utilizing that integration.
And your staff has to be, or you have to have people on your staff that obviously are familiar with Windows and Macintosh or Apple.
That's right. In fact, 20 years ago, Windows was the unheard name in Waco ISD. It was predominantly Macintosh. And I'm glad you brought that up because now it's predominantly Windows. We have about 98% Dell computers in our district. But when it all comes down to it, it's really not even about the device. It's not about a Windows or a Macintosh computer that led to successful students, not at all. It's how that device was used in the integration of the lesson, how the teacher used it to engage the students. In my position, I've read many success stories of districts that have been 100% Macintosh, success stories of districts that have been 100% Windows. You can't tell me that one was better than the other, one format. It's not about the device, it's how it is implemented. It's how it is used to engage. These days, Microsoft Office is available on both formats, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. But a integrated lesson with technology isn't about showing a PowerPoint presentation. You can bore the students just as much with a PowerPoint presentation as you could with a chalk and blackboard. You can. It's what is in that presentation. It's how that student is called to respond, how that student is called to write, how that student is called to read, utilizing that integration of technology. So, and the same with mobile technologies. We talk about the thumbs, whether it's an Android device, whether it's a Windows device or an Apple, an iPad device. It's the methodology behind using that. And that's what's really exciting about my department is I get to show those, give those professional developments to teachers and say, hey, here's a way that you can use it. Mind you, it's what we call device agnostic. Doesn't matter what the device, the brand name is, it's how you're going to use it.
Right. Another thing you're really keenly involved in are the things behind the scenes like online registration. That's something that we've been trying to, I guess, perfect because we tried it now, I think we're in year 3.
That's correct.
Talk a little bit about that process.
Sure. Well, we've had, at the same time of online registration, year 3, we've also had a conversion in what we call our student information systems, the database, if you will, that stores all of the student records, parent-guardian contacts, assessment scores. There's so much that goes in there. Transcripts are we use that program to print out transcripts. So the data has to be very, very clean and checked to make sure that there are no errors. Accuracy is a must. So the program that we're using now is out of a company from Austin. ProLogic Teams is the name of the software. And they had their own integrated online registration system, which in years past we've used a third-party company that has then exported their information out. We've imported it in, and we've hoped that the fields we're importing all that information is correct. And maybe there's a form that we requested parents to fill out, but there are no fields for that in the student information system. How do we go about using that data? So this new program now lends itself to be able to have all those forms. And parents that are watching this are very familiar with the packet that typically is given to them in the summertime for registration, in which they have to fill out their name and their address and the child's ID number on several pages. Well, the online registration takes away all that. The online registration has them to verify that information first. The student ID is not going to change. If the parent address will change, then they have to correct that with the campus showing proof of residency. But then all the other forms no longer ask for the child's birth date. They'll ask for the form for information. Is your child a offspring of military parents? Have you lived in various parts, rural areas? We want to check the homeless situation, so that if those services are needed, that form qualifies them for those services. There's a total of 8 forms on there, but now they just have to answer the questions rather than to have to put the child's name, address, phone number, emergency contacts and so forth multiple times. So our job is to make it easier. And I can tell you that here we are 3 weeks into registration, and this morning I saw that we had over 3,200 students that had successfully registered. We kicked it off on July the 8th, and since then 3,200 have successfully registered on using the online system. So we like to think that it's going much better. Very few bugs, if you will, in the system, and we've been handling those as campuses have alerted us about them.
If you're watching this interview prior to August the 21st, I think, make sure to go to the Waco ISD website and use our online registration system. If you're watching after that date, we're talking about the success of online registration. Tell us anything else that I haven't asked you that is on the horizon in technology.
Well, we talked at the very beginning about the infrastructure,
yes,
and that is something that I have to stay on top of. I need to ensure that from what we sometimes call the data center in our district, where all the servers and battery backups and our components are stored, to the lines that connect our central office to all of the campuses and district entities, to their connections of the network, all the way to the end user. All right, the person that's actually keying that in, that has to be a smooth process. It has to be, we have to make sure that whatever they're looking at, whatever they're accessing of district resources, that they're not going to be bogged down, they're not going to be waiting and waiting and waiting for, as we probably were waiting back in the days of the floppy disk and so forth. Technology has improved efficiency. And we need to make sure that we stay on top of that. We need to make sure that it is an efficient method, not just for teachers to enter their grades or attendance, but even for folks in the administration building to complete reports, to pull out Excel spreadsheets, to access that data. That all has to be in a very efficient manner. Otherwise, we're really not utilizing the true benefits of technology.
Very good. Alfredo, thank you so much for joining us today for Know Your Schools. I know another school year is upon us, and are you excited about it?
I'm very excited. Of course, you and I, Dale, we typically don't get summers off. This is usually our busiest time of the year, but at the same time, it's a good opportunity to reflect and to see what's coming up for the next year. So yes, I'm excited. I'm excited about teachers being able to have a better tool to take attendance, to take grades, to pull data off, and I will never leave the campuses, so I'm out there in the schools just like I was this morning when you got me over there from the registration, from helping parents in registration.
That's right.
Yeah, I enjoy doing that, and as long as we don't lose the connection of who we are here to help, then we'll be doing well.
I use Alfredo's talents too, I must say, as a person who is bilingual. And so, in closing, you want to send a message to our Spanish-speaking friends at home.
Thank you, Dale. Gracias, Dale. Queremos decirle a los padres que cualquier situación que tengan en las escuelas públicas de Waco, por favor, comuníquense con su escuela, comuníquense con el director, con sus maestros, y que siempre queremos mantener esas líneas de comunicaciones abiertas, porque estamos aquí para ustedes, estamos aquí para sus familias, como una comunidad del distrito. Aquí estamos para el bienestar de todos los miembros de nuestra comunidad. Muchísimas gracias por habernos escuchado.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dale.
Alfredo Loredo, he is the Director of Technology at Waco ISD, and thank you for joining us for Know Your Schools on WISD TV.